everyone, welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be ranking all 25 James Bond movies. And I'm only focusing on canon movies, so there are 2 movies that won't be here. Also, this ranking is just my personal opinion. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. There will be spoiler in this video, so this is your spoiler alert. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Number 25 is From Russia with Love. Look, there's no James Bond movie I straight out hate, but I have those that are just okay on. This isn't a bad movie, it's just really uninteresting. And the main villain of this movie, that woman, she does not feel threatening at all. Even her bodyguard was someone that was a bit threatening, but not someone I believe will fully take on Bond with ease. Many of the villains have a henchman which is almost more skilled or stronger than Bond sometimes. Bond have to use all his tricks to win. I do not feel like Bond have to do it in this movie. Maybe just this is my feeling, but that's just how I see it. Number 24 is On Her Majesty Secret Service. Now, this one has the exact same problem with the previous one, that I do not feel it's that interesting, but it has Bloodface or Bloodfelt in the movie, so that also helped. Another thing that helped is that Bond had a real shot at a happy life in this movie. However, Bloodfelt took that away from him, and that ruined any hope he had at a happy life. Bond in the next movie is out for revenge, and that is understandable. But then again, I wasn't a big fan of this movie. It did better than From Russia with Love, but just barely. A few smarter choices here. Number 23 is Tomorrow Never Dies. Now, this movie could have been better if they had a better villain. Engineering a war between Britain and China just to get broadcast rights. It was just dumb plan. I think out of all James Bond villains, this one is the one with the most stupidest plan. Stupidest goal? Who say that the war won't turn nuclear? So yeah, I did not exactly enjoy this movie that much. It's better than the 2 previous. It is watchable and you get some entertainment from it. But I feel like it makes such a big problem with its main villain, and the actor that plays Bond never feel like he is in real danger. He feel like there's obvious way to get out of it. Maybe that's just my opinion, but that's just how I feel about this movie. It's okay, but it's still one of the more lower Bond movies. Coming up as number 22 is Octopussy. Now, this one is here mostly because it has better story, but it's still really generic spy action movie. The story is mostly the best part of this movie, and the actor that plays James Bond also do a really good job here. I also like the 2 villains this movie has, Kamala Khan, an exiled Afghan prince, and General Orlov. Both of those 2 worked as villains for me, even though they're not the best villains, but they work. Like I said, story is mostly why it's earned this spot as it has. It's slightly better than those I talked about earlier. Number 21 is The Living Daylight. I had a hard time deciding if this one was gonna end up or if the previous one I talked about was gonna be here. They both have good story, but what I like about this one is that I feel like the villains and execution is a little bit better. But everything I said about the previous movie or why I like that, I can say about this one, and it's a little bit better, like I said. So there's not really much to talk about. A generic spy action movie with a bit better story, a bit better villains, and a bit better execution. Coming up as number 20 is The World Is Not Enough. The story is a bit better than the previous five, and it also makes something more interesting in giving us two main villains that is really different from each other. One is a woman that is quite intelligent and can seduce and manipulate Bond. The other is a physical threat to Bond. So they had two main villains that is equally good, and one of them is a dead man walking, so that also is interesting. Another good choice they had here was when they kidnapped M. I think introducing this movie the way they did and the way they told the story really worked here. It's not an excellent movie, but it's getting better. Number 19 is Diamonds Are Forever. The only reason this movie is this slow is because once again they're using Bloodfeld as the main villain, and I was a bit tired of him. I knew they had to do it because they had to finish off that story with Bloodfeld, but I was just getting a little bit tired of him. He's still probably one of the three best villains of the Bond franchise, but right now I really wanted to see someone else. But besides that, they did mostly things right. The story is well written, well balanced. The development for Bond really is great here. His plan in the beginning of the movie of taking revenge on Blofeld really was understandable after they got his wife killed. I really think this is a good James Bond movie. I really like the story and I really like the characterization of Bond here. And the two secondary main antagonists, Mr. Wit and Mr. Tweed, I think it was. I just love them on this movie. They made this movie a much better experience because they're so funny and evil at the same time. Number 18 is Moonraker. The story, the action, really great here. The actor that played James Bond could have done a little bit better, but he was still a good 007. The villain was quite good as well. Where this movie fails, in my opinion, is the final battle when it becomes too much sci-fi, when they have laser guns. I really think that was a really bad choice, but in another way they also redeemed Jaw. So this movie does do some things wrong and it do some things right. I really have a hard time determine how good or how bad this movie is because I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's mostly good. I think it is slightly better than the previous one I talked about. At the same time, I can't rank it any higher. The story is its best asset here, and its villain is the secondary best asset. Number 17 is For Your Eyes Only. This one, great story. The actor who plays James Bond, excellent. Its villain could have been much better. I didn't like this movie, that villain, that much, and the villain is an important part of a story. But like I said, the story is still well structured even though it has a bad villain, and that's not easy to do. James Bond is being played almost perfectly, and the supporting characters in this movie is really good characters. It has good action, it has good drama, it's a well structured movie, and it earned its place here. For this one, I know I'm gonna get a little bit of disagreement with, but number 16 is Die Another Day. Now, I understand why most people don't like this movie, but I actually do like it, and it's villain, I actually like him. I agree that his plan isn't the best plan because he overlooked some of the issues with it, but that is also something that helps make a good villain when the villain thinks that his plan is perfect, but many others can see that there is flaws with it. The Americans would have used atomic weapons on them if he had continued, just like his father said, and that is something he didn't even consider. He didn't even care about it because he didn't think it would matter if they could stop it. So his plan was flawed. But like I said, that showed his arrogance, that showed how much he believes in himself, and he has a superiority complex. When you add that to the story actually feels much better. And James Bond is shown to be much smarter in this movie when he pulls certain things off. And the fact that some people complained that he didn't recognize the main villain when they met him the second time, can you blame James Bond for that? I think most people would have. The supporting characters are also well written characters in this movie. The story is good here, the drama is good, and the fact that James Bond did not want to be saved because they knew that Shaw would be sent back to North Korea, that shows that he really is loyal to the MI6 and the British government. Yet another proof why he is a good spy with flaws. Number 15 is No Time to Die. There are some people that didn't like this movie that well. I think it was pretty good. Not an amazing James Bond movie, but a good one. A lot of people didn't like the main villain of this movie. I think the main villain was just okay, not too good, not too bad. But I think the story and how it all connects back to Spectre, either Spectre itself is not serving as the main antagonist group. I like that it's circling back to it. I like that this villain is the most genocidal villain that we had in a long time in Daniel Craig's era. The story is well made, well structured, and this is about Bond decided to quit the MI6. But here's the biggest thing. One thing I have to give them credit for, because they had balls to do this, and in the end of the movie, they killed off James Bond. I did not see that coming, and I think it was a good choice. It really showed that this was his biggest challenge under the Daniel Craig era. So I think it has earned its place here. Number 14 is Live and Let Die. This one has one of the better story in James Bond. It has good drama. James Bond is shown to be smart as he often is. They did not treat him like a fool here. They also had one of the best villains, maybe one of the top 10 villains of James Bond. Maybe. So why isn't it higher? It's because I feel like every other movie is getting better and better from this point on, story-wise. And this one had one of my favorite villains, so that is another plot. As this video goes on, it's getting harder and harder to rank these movies because they are all so good. So I'm mostly ranking them for story. Not all of it is story. There are other things that makes them good, but story is a really important part. Number 12 is The Spy Who Loved Me. Not only is this the first introduction of the character Jaws, but it also had one of James Bond's best love interests in this movie. That in itself ranks it quite high, but I feel like Bond really is on one of his better adventure here. I like the story, I like the action, I like how smart he seems yet, I like the actors still give a great job as Bond. It's much better than Moonraker. The story, the action, the drama, all of it is much better here. Like I said earlier, I'm mostly ranking those next one out of story. And this one has a really good story. And with the other things that I mentioned, it has earned its place as number 13. Number 12 is Quantum of Solace. Now, this one, like the one I said earlier, is this high mostly out of the story. It could have been even higher if they didn't have such a wimpy villain, Dominic Green. I think Green is one of the weakest James Bond villain that is out there. I really didn't like the character at all. So again, story messy, the movie is great. But when it comes to its antagonist, it really is lacking. The plan that Green and his allies had was a good plan, but then again, not much more than that. It earned its place as number 12 in story, and Daniel Craig is still one of my favorite actors to play James Bond, but I don't have much more to say about it. Number 11 is A View to a Kill. This one has one of my top 10 favorite James Bond villains, and the story keeps getting better. But one of the things that really make this one shine is how smart of a plan the villain made of how he was going to monopolize global microchip market. He was going to detonate explosive along Highwood and San Andreas Fault beneath San Francisco Bay Area. This would trigger a massive double earthquake designed to flood Silicon Valley, destroying all of his competitors' facilities. That was an evil and intelligent plan. He would become one of the most influential people if he controlled Microsoft's market. So the plan was good, it was ambitious, and he sees no value in human life. This villain is the pure evil type villain, and here it works. I know I just talked about the movie's main villain, but the main villain is the best part of this movie. If the villain was lacking in this movie would not have been this great. I will fall a few lines back. Number 10 is Dr. No. Of course, the first James Bond movie in the canon timeline was gonna be on the last 10 to enter this list because not only is it a great movie for its time, the actor that plays James Bond here is one of the 3 best actors to play him. The story is excellent, well structured, good drama, good spy jobbing, and most of all, it hints at its future. We first thought that Dr. No was gonna be the main antagonist and he was gonna be the leader of whatever organization, but no, he is the main antagonist, but he's not the leader of Spectre. So that was actually a good hint for future movies. This movie sets up a possible future, but also makes it possible if the franchise want to continue. Thank God it did. That it could work as a one-off. Good story, good drama, one of the three best actors. This movie has so much that it really earns its place here. Number 9 is The Man with the Golden Gun. This one has a unique premise, and that is that either we, the audience, know who the main villain is. James Bond has no idea what he looks like, and the main villain knows how James Bond looks like. So this one has a real interesting premise that alone would not have driven it this far. But the villain in this movie is also a really great villain, a really great assassin, and has a complete funny minion. I really like that. And that the villain isn't a coward. He's willing to go toe to toe with James Bond when it comes with a shootout or a duel, like they call it. That is one of the things I really like the most here. The story is well structured and it keeps getting better. The drama is well made. Roger Moore is a good James Bond. Number 8 is License to Kill. Now, this is another time when James Bond is actually out for revenge. The previous one was on Diamonds Are Forever, but I think it worked much better here. I think this revenge story was better made, and its main villain, a massive drug dealer, was one of my favorite assets to this movie. The main villain here is easily on top 10 James Bond villains, if I'm gonna make that video sometime. The story is well structured here. The characters are done right. I have no negatives about this movie. And it all starts when our main villain is first captured, then escape, and then almost kill Felix. You have a great start right there. Number 7 is Goldfinger. Remember everything positive I said about the previous movie, License to Kill, and just apply it here as well, just even better. The only thing that's not better is its main villain, but everything else is better. I really like the story, another revenge story, and I am the type of person that I understand revenge, but I don't always agree with it. But like I said, just remember everything I said about the previous movie until I start mentioning its beginning, and just add it here, and with that, that's all I need to say. Number 6 is Thunderball. This movie really is a step up from some of the previous James Bond before it. I mean, Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, Dr. No. This one was a really big step up. I think the actor Sean Connery is even better here. I really like the characters in this movie. The story is great. Like the two previous, I have no negative of this movie. Villain could be on a top 10 James Bond villain list, but I'm not quite sure yet. So this may not be a revenge story like Goldfinger and License to Kill. Then again, that works in its favor, since this one comes after Goldfinger, instead of having James Bond be emotional going out for revenge. This time, he's just serving his country. That's the main goal for him this time, to stop whoever wants to threaten the world with nukes in order so he can serve his own nation, the Great Britain. Number 5 is Casino Royale. For some of you, this is the best James Bond movie out there, and I understand why, but I think the last four that I'm going to talk about did slightly better. Each one did a little bit better than the other. But the story here is one of the three best stories. And you might wonder, why is it then just number 5 and not number 1 or number 2? It mostly because I was not the biggest fan of this movie's main villain. I didn't like him that much. And I'm not meaning liking him like he's a good person. I didn't like him as a villain that much. He wasn't completely bad, but I found him a bit lacklusting. Maybe that's just me because I hear other people really liking him, but I just didn't. I felt like since this was the first Bond movie with Daniel Craig, a good villain should really be a big part of it. But Daniel Craig is either the best James Bond or the second best James Bond. No doubt about that. And with him in a movie, that movie is guaranteed to be high on the list. Like I said, the story is one of the best in the entire franchise. That's saying something. The action is good, but this movie shines most with this drama and spy work. And gambling, of course. Can't always have a James Bond movie without a little bit of gambling. Number 4 is Skyfall. Again, another Daniel Craig James Bond, and this one an excellent movie in almost every way of the word. Daniel Craig once again proved why he is one of the best actor to play James Bond. The drama, the action really works here, but what really made me fall in love with this movie was its main villain. Raul Silva was one of the best villains in James Bond. He is evil, he is cruel, and he's out for revenge. He feel like his government betrayed him, but I understand you feel betrayed, but it does not justify your action against people that hasn't done something to you. The MI6 did something, the people of Britain did not. His plan do put civilians at risk, but he doesn't care. He's out for revenge. And the actor that plays him shows a good level of charisma, a good point to his intelligence, his capability. They really got the right actor to play him. And if they had gotten any other actor, I think the movie would have suffered greatly from it. The story is well made here. The drama, the spy work, the action all work so well here. And that this character, the main villain, is after revenge against M personally, that she is the one he's ultimately after, and successfully kill means that he in one way won. I really think this is a great movie with a great villain and Daniel Craig's second best movie. Number 3 is You Only Live Twice. This is the movie where James Bond first faced off against Blofeld. I really liked this movie. It had a lot that it had to live up to, and it did. Great story, great action, and our main villain is one of the best in the series. Maybe the third, maybe the fourth. I'm honestly a little bit unsure where I'm gonna put him. But Sean Connery is doing an excellent job here as James Bond. Blofeld plan to take over the world was actually an intelligent plan. The way he planned to start a war with the United States and the Soviet Union, hoping that nuclear war would destroy the two remainder powers and everyone else that will pick sides. His base will be untouched by the nuclear fallout, leaving them as the sole power. They could control and influence the rest of the world. That was quite a good plan, although I think it would have failed with what we know about nuclear weapons today. But I don't think we had the same info on how much the world would be screwed over if we used it back then. We knew that enough would understand equal shared destruction, but did we know back then that it could put an end to mankind? Maybe we knew, maybe we didn't. But I still think it was an intelligent plan. And if you get rid of the two greatest superpowers, there would be a great vacuum that Spectre could have influenced. So his plan wasn't that stupid. Again, the only reason this is so low is because the next two movies did so much better. This movie has great story, great action. The James Bond as a spy is really great here. Drama is good. Like the last I talked about so far, from 10 and downward, I have nothing bad to say about this movie. Number 2 is Spectre. Now, this one is perhaps Daniel Craig's best movie. I really think Spectre is a masterpiece when it comes to James Bond. I had a hard time deciding if this was gonna be number 2 or number 1 because it's such a good movie. Great story, great action. They're using Blofeld as a main villain here, just recast for Daniel Craig's era. I don't have a single negative thing to say about this movie. I said that about some of the other movies earlier on this last 10 movies. But here, I don't think there's anyone that can find one big problem with this movie. Daniel Craig is on his A game here. James Bond's love interest is a great love interest. Spectre's plan is a great plan. Everything about this movie screams, we gotta step it up, we gotta step it up. And when we think we stepped up enough, we're gonna step it up a bit more. Every actor doing a great job, every character is well written. The main villain is a great villain. The story is so great here. And once I said earlier, I'm gonna say it again. Daniel Craig may be the best James Bond or second best James Bond in his best movie today. And finally, what I consider to be the number 1 James Bond movie is none other than GoldenEye. This is peak James Bond. Great story, great villain motivation. The actor that played James Bond is at his best here for England. The story, drama, spy work, the action again. Everything is done so well here. And the main villain, one of my favorites in the entire franchise. 006 was the perfect antagonist for 007. He was able to go toe to toe and on multiple occasions really made you think if he was gonna successfully kill James Bond. I don't think there's that many spy movies that are this great, and I am not the biggest fan of spy movies. I like them, but they're not always some of my favorites. This one definitely is. I think this one would be on a top 10 movie list one day. I think if I made one earlier, I'm going to reboot it because new times, things change. Time to upgrade the ball. I really think GoldenEye is one of the best spy movies out there. I think it's the best James Bond movie and consider its competition. That's saying a lot. Great story, great action, great spy work. James Bond better than it's ever been. One of the best films in the entire franchise. What could go wrong here? Nothing! And that's it for this video. Do you guys like this franchise? And do you agree with this list? Or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope to see you guys again next time.